Hey guys, this is CK at CK Education, and as promised today I want to talk about how to minimize the four big debts in American life. I told you in previous videos that there are four main sources of debt in American society. I mean, there's the mortgage, there's your college student loans, there's your car loans, and then there's your credit cards. Maybe an easy way to remember this is like MCCC. Like there's mortgage, college, car, credit card. But those are the four main sources of debt. Now, of course, there are other debts. I'm not saying they're not. Like, if you have a business, maybe you have business loans and, other things like that. But these are the four main sources. But and I talked about last time how to pay that off more quickly and how to become debt free. But the problem is some people get into debt, too much debt in the first place. And I think that's the root cause of it. So let's get to that. Why do people rack up so much debt in the first place? They get to a point where it's unmanageable sometimes. Or when I say unmanageable, it's not that they can't pay it every month. It's just that they're 70 years old and still paying it. There are people in America who are on Social Security who are still paying off their student loans. This is a real thing. I mean, it's people who are retirement age who could never pay off their houses, their mortgages. So they either have to sell and go into a low income senior housing, or they have to move into a small apartment, and then again the rents keep going up. I mean, they get into the same situation they were when they were very young because they can never pay off their debts. There are people who can never get out of credit card debt. There are people who perpetually get car loans and they just can never get out of this cycle. This is actually a very sad and disturbing thing if you think about it. I said in many videos, money isn't happiness. You make a lot of money and suddenly you become happy. That's not the case. Money is just a tool. However, it's a very important tool. And if you don't manage your money correctly, it affects so many different areas. In fact, it impacts every area of your life. When you have money problems, you typically have a lot of stress, and you have health problems, and you have relationship problems, and all kinds of. So it affects everything. So let's get to the root cause, and let's talk about why do people get into so much debt in the first place? How do you minimize the debts? Some of these are inevitable. You have to, if you're going to buy a house, maybe you have to get a mortgage. If you're going to buy a car, maybe you don't have $30,000-$40,000 in cash, so you have to get a car loan. If you're going to go to college, you say, I can't afford college, so I have to get a loan. So let's talk about how to minimize that, because there are ways, and people just ignore them. Okay, they just do. They just listen to everybody else out there, and they get into too much debt. Let's talk about them one by one. People become house poor. House poor is a term that's used when people buy a house and the mortgage is so high that they can almost afford nothing else. Every month they're paying so much on their mortgage that they can afford almost nothing else. Okay, they have very, very little money left at the end of the month after they pay their mortgage because they bought too big of a house. So here's what happens. People get pre-approved based on their income and their credit score. Primarily, people get pre-approved. And so you go to a lender, they say, oh, you know what? You can, we pre-approve you. You can get approved for $600,000. And so people get all excited. Oh man, $600,000! I can go buy a home for $600,000. So they go tell the real estate agent, hey, I was just pre-approved and I can buy a house, for up to $600,000. So of course, the real estate agent gets excited too, because the bigger house you buy, the more commission he makes. See, everybody makes money based off of your mistake. Okay, so you say, "Oh, I'm $600,000. Everybody's excited around me. Must be the right thing to do." So you go and get a $600,000 house, and you get your first mortgage statement, and then it just blows your mind how much the mortgage is. You're like, "Well, I could barely afford this." Well, but I guess the lender told me I could do it, and the underwriter approved it, and the real estate agent, he advised me it was a good move, and he said it's an investment in my future. So, everybody's doing it. I guess it's okay. So they got a house, $600,000 house. They can barely afford it, and they pay the mortgage every month, and then they get a big heating bill or big air conditioning bill in the summer, and they're like, oh man, I mean, this is so much money. After I pay my mortgage every month, And oh man, on top of that, I got like, the HOA fee. And on top of, I got property taxes that are in the mortgage. I didn't really account for that. And I didn't know that the heating bill was going to be this high. And we need repairs on the house sometimes. And sometimes things go out. I got to repair it, or I have a PMI insurance on it that I'm paying. You got all these things, and you're at the end of the month, you don't have much left. So what happened? Well, you made an unwise decision right from the start. Here's what should have happened. Here's what I advise. What I advise is, let's say the lender, let's rewind, and the lender says, oh, you're pre-approved for $600,000. And you ask the lender, well, $600,000, can you give me all of the numbers, detailed numbers, and they'll give it to you. Can you give me all the numbers? Like I want HOA fee, I want PMI insurance, I want the mortgage amount, the interest, everything. I want everything out the door. How much would I pay? If I got a house for this amount, how much would I have to pay out the door every month? They give you the amount, and you say, wow, that's pretty big. So you say, I would like another number. You don't even have to ask a lender. Okay, you can go on a lot of websites and stuff, and you can just punch in the number, and you can see about how much per month you'd end up paying. If you go to like Zillow.com or Realtor.com, or some of these sites where you can find houses, you just click on any house and you put in like the down payment, how many percent, and how much the house is worth, and the interest rate, and it'll pretty much kind of give you a pretty accurate amount, like how much the mortgage will be every month. And so there are a lot of tools out there. But if you want a very, very exact number, you ask your lender, okay, forget about 600 because that's kind of high. Okay, how about 450? I know I can buy a $600,000 house, but what if I buy a house for 450? What would the numbers look like? And they look a lot better. And you're thinking in your mind, if I buy a house for 450 instead of 600,000, and I look at the monthly payments, I can pay a lot extra on that. See, you say, I'm living in an apartment right now, and if I get this house, I could pay a little bit more than what I'm paying on the apartment, and I could still overpay my mortgage. So let's say I'm making numbers up. Let's say my mortgage is $1,500 a month if I buy a $450,000 house, and you say, but I could pay, $2,500. I can pay an extra $1,000 a month. Okay, cool. That's what you want to do. You want to get into a situation where your mortgage amount is low enough so that you can pay an extra amount, pretty significant extra amount every month. And you want to calculate, a few videos ago, I gave you that link for the early mortgage payoff calculator. And you want to put it in there and say, now, what if it is $1,500 based on a $450,000 house? And what if I do pay $1,000 extra? How much earlier would I be able to pay off the loan? And let's say you do that and it turns out, oh man, I could pay off a 30-year mortgage in 12 years. Boom, there you go. That's a better situation to be in than to let them fool you into thinking, oh, I got pre-approved for 600. I'm going to go buy the maximum house I can buy. This is foolishness. You need some cushion every month. Not only do you need cushion, that saved up money that I talked about in other videos. You need cushion money saved up to live 6 months to a year, even if you lost your job. But in addition to that, every month, you should have cushion money that you got to be saving up. You don't know what's going to happen. You always got to have emergency fund. You always have to have that. But if your mortgage is so high that you barely have anything left at the end of the month, that's a very risky proposition. That's a very dangerous situation to be in. So even though your lender tells you you're pre-approved for 600, run the numbers and say, maybe what if I get a $400,000 house? Maybe I don't get that big of a house as I can, because I want to pay extra on my mortgage and I want to see if I can pay this thing off in 12 or 13 years, maybe even 10 years rather than 30 years. Okay, so that's number one. That's a mortgage. That's what I would do. I wouldn't maximize and I wouldn't be house poor or house broke. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So that's house. Let's talk about the second big debt that a lot of people get into in life, and that is student loans. Man, I'm in the education business. I do college prep. This is my business. This is my 13th year doing it. So I see a lot of families, hundreds of families. I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families who have gone into huge debt to pay for college for their kids. Okay, so people are graduating college and they have $50,000, $100,000, over $100,000 in student loans. Then they go to grad school. Okay, so that adds another. So I know people go to grad school and after 4 years of grad school or even 2 years of grad school, they're like, I got an extra $300,000. This is crazy. I mean, people graduate grad school and even college, and I know some people who have graduated from grad school and they have $350,000 in student loans, $500,000 in student loans. How many years do you think it will take them? How old do you think they will be before they pay all of that off? 50? Maybe if they're lucky. 60? Maybe, yeah. 70? Very possible. It's very possible that a lot of people who have that much student loans, they'll be working their entire lives just to pay off that student loan. This is insanity. I mean, so let me tell you, and I've said this in other videos when I talk about how to go to college, without, any debt and so forth. So let me say it again if you haven't watched those videos. It's very possible to go to college with zero student loans. Okay, let me tell you how to do it. I feel like this is the 10th time I'm saying this, but it's very important. So let me explain it to you. First of all, you got to give up this notion that there are good and bad colleges. There are really good and really bad. There are better and worse. College rankings matter. If you think that, you're living in a dream, okay? Let me tell you, college rankings don't matter. What do you mean matter, first of all? Do you mean when you go to that higher ranking college that you're going to get a better job, you're going to get a higher paying job, you're going to be more successful in your career? If that's why you think college rank matters, this is a fantasy. There is no such data that supports that. Okay, if you seen any, comment below and send them to me. Okay, and I can tell you from over almost 20 years in the corporate world and working in federal agencies, state government. I've worked for huge global conglomerates. I've worked for medium and smaller size companies, and I can tell you. And I've been in many different positions when I was working in the corporate world before I became an entrepreneur. And I can tell you, I have seen no evidence of people, because they graduated from a quote better or higher ranking or more expensive college, that they did better, they had more opportunity, they had higher pay raises, they had higher starting pay. I haven't seen that. I haven't. It is actually based on performance, how good you are at what you do. So let's just put that notion to the side that there are better and worse colleges. Sure, there are higher ranked colleges. Doesn't mean they're better. Doesn't mean you'll be more successful. So if you put that away, why does it matter so much that you go to a college that has higher ranking and that you go pay so much money to go to college? It really isn't a rational reason for that. Okay, so if you put that notion aside, here's how you go to college for free or almost free. So if you're living in a place where you can go to a local public university and you can commute there, it's very important that you can commute there. Now, if you can't commute, your college expenses are going to double. Okay, if you commute from home, your college expenses go down by about half. So if you commute from home, instead of rooming and boarding, the room and board for college, if you go there and you eat their food and you get their meal pass and you stay in their dorms, the cost for colleges doubles approximately. If you commute from home, your college expense goes down by almost a half, if not a half. So what you do is you go to college, you commute from home, and you take the minimum number of credits. Now, I would say this regardless of your financial situation. And I say minimum number of credits because who cares if you graduate college in 4 years or 4.5 years or 5 years? Nobody cares, seriously, okay? Nobody cares. It was more important that you go to college and do well, all right? So you go to college, you take the minimum number of credits. Why minimum number of credits? Because in college, the tuition is based on how many credits you take. So if you take 12 credits versus 18 credits is going to cost more. So let's say you take 12 credits. Now, a couple of reasons for this. Let's say you take 12 credits and that's a minimum for a full-time student. You take 12 credits, let's say, and it'll be easier for you, first of all, to get through school, okay? It will be less stressful. Secondly, it'll cost you less. Thirdly, it'll give you more time to work. Yes, work. So if you work in college, if you're 18, 19 years old, by this time you're an adult, you can get any job out there and you can get paid. Look, in the state of Maryland, minimum wage is like $10 something, but a lot of places paying $12, $14, $15. Okay, so you go and work 15 to 20 hours a week. And then in the summers and during breaks, you work even more. Okay, if you do that as a college student and you take the minimum number of credits and you commute from home, you can make enough money to pretty much put yourself through college. And within 4.5 years or so, maybe 5 years, like I said, no big deal, you can get through college, zero student loans. You don't need any loans. And you should have some money saved up anyway, even a little bit. But even if you don't, if you work, and most parents can put in a few thousand a year. If they put in a few thousand a year, help you out, you work the rest of it, you can get through college, no student loans, Okay, just run the numbers and you'll see what I'm talking about. Go to a local school and see, go on the website and see what the tuition fees are. If you don't live in the school, it'll be like, oh, it was 20,000, but now it's like 10,000. Okay, something like that. Divide that by 12 months and see how much you can make in 12, each month, and see how much your parents can help you with each month, and run the numbers and see if you can actually afford college without student loans. And you'll see, oh, it's very doable. Okay, so do you have to get $50,000, $100,000 in student loans? Do you have to do that? No. Now, graduate school is a little bit different. You're going to go to medical school, you're going to go to dental school, you're going to rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan if you don't have the money. If your family isn't wealthy, they can't pay for it. It's very difficult to do that and work through that and pay that much and make that much to pay that off while you're going to school. So I tell students, this is something you might want to think about. Are you sure you want to be a dentist? Are you sure you want to be a doctor? Are you sure you want to go down that road? Why do you want to go down that road? Is it because you think you're going to be rich and make a lot of money and live in a big house with a fancy car? Or is this your true calling in life? Is it just because your parents are... What is the thing? And because it's going to end up probably, if your family is not rich, you'll probably, you're going to end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans. This is a real thing. So I would think about that. So now I just told you how to minimize or eliminate your student loans, right? Number 3, car loans. Okay, too many people, too many young people. You guys are 25, you guys are 26. You guys are all buying the fancy cars because you make a little bit of money. So you're making $80,000, $90,000 out of college. Okay, you're doing pretty good. You're like, I'm making $100,000 out of college. Okay, cool. So whatever you're making. But again, you probably have student loans. You have to pay for your apartment, whatever it is. And you guys are going out, and people are, not just you guys, but older people too. They go and buy more expensive cars than they should. People are making $80,000 and they're going out and buying a $50,000 car. This is crazy. All right. So why not go buy a very reliable mode of transportation? Okay. When you go buy a car, this is not a status symbol. What car you drive doesn't define you. Okay? It doesn't make your worth bigger. It doesn't make you a better person. It's a mode of transportation to get to where you need to go. Now, I'm not saying you can't buy a nice car, but I'm saying if you're making $80,000, you should not be buying a $50,000 car, because now you got student, you may have student loans, but you got car loans that are too big. I know people who have these, huge pickup trucks that are $70,000, $80,000. They got $900 a month car payments. Okay, that's like a small. You can buy a condo. You can buy a small condo or something in some places and pay that as a mortgage. Okay, and some people are paying that for cars. They can't really. They can afford it, meaning they can pay every month, but they don't have much left over because they're paying so much for a car that depreciates. Again, I am not against buying the things that you want to buy, but there's a time, there's a place, there's a time for that. It's when your debts are paid off, you're making a lot of money, you have so much money left over, you can just go pay cash for that car. But if you're barely have money left at the end of the month and you go buy this nice car, that's not wise. So what I'm saying is, why don't you go buy a used car? Why don't you go buy a used, a nice, reliable car until you get some debt paid off, until you get into a situation where you can buy a better car. Look, I love cars. I'm a guy, I love cars. I've always loved cars. I love reading about cars. I love seeing what comes out. I love all the car brands and seeing what they do in the design. I love it. I do. But I'm very practical about it. I don't go out and buy $50,000 cars, $70,000 cars. I can, but I don't. I don't feel the need to do that. I'm very practical in that sense. And so I just, I'm not saying you have to be like me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we should all be practical because, again, money is a very important issue. And so car loans, look, I would try to minimize and I would try to save up some money to put a down payment on a car, okay? And then the rest of it, maybe you get a loan, and the better your credit score, the lower interest rate you'll have, but you get a car loan. But again, make sure that you can pay extra on that. Don't ever get a loan where that's going to maximize. You can only pay the minimum. Always get a loan and have the amount be lower than what you need, so that you can pay extra. Okay, does that make sense? So that you can pay it off faster. And the goal should be to pay that off quickly. So don't go and buy these expensive fancy cars because your friends are doing it. Your friends are fools if they're doing that. Okay, so go buy maybe a less expensive, a reliable mode of transportation that will get you there. I know people who make over $100,000 and they got very small, just reliable modes of transportation that they drive and they've been driving for years. It's all paid off. It's a very smart thing to do. So anyway, there's that. The fourth thing is credit cards. I'm not against credit cards. I use credit cards, but I use them very wisely. They're always paid off. I just use them because I think it's safer to use them in public than debit ATM cards. And so I use credit cards, but I pay it off literally like every day I go in and I just pay off whatever balances are on there. So it's always a zero balance on credit cards, okay? And again, you can use it to build credit and so forth, and that's okay. But if you can't handle credit cards and you go crazy on them, you got to cut them up and throw them away and not use them, okay? Because it is basically borrowing money. But like I said, if you're wise and if you just use it for groceries or gas or something and you keep paying it off, like I do, that's fine. If you can control it, manage it, that's cool. But if you are racking up a lot of credit card debt and you can't control yourself, you need to cut it up and throw it away. It will ruin you financially, okay? So the thing about credit cards is I would not use credit cards. I would never use credit cards to pay for something I couldn't pay for in cash. I pay, groceries or gas or something. I use credit cards because now I could just use a debit card. But again, there are reasons why that I just use a credit card. I just use a credit card, and then, like I said, every day I just pay it off. I go online and I pay it off, so that I maintain a zero balance on credit cards. If you can do that, cool, and that builds your credit and so forth. If you cannot do that, and you're saying, man, I can't afford this, but I just put on my credit card. If you're doing that kind of thing, then I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't use it because it's gonna ruin you financially. Okay, there's no end to this because credit card companies love for you to be in debt. So they'll say, hey, we just increase your credit limit. It used to be 1,000, we're gonna increase it to 1,500, and then you get all these offers, makes you feel good. Oh, we're gonna give you the platinum card. Okay, don't be fooled. Okay, this is foolishness. It's just a marketing tactic, and they want you to go use their credit cards and go so they can live off your interest, okay? So don't be fooled by it. Don't be controlled by it. I've gone over the 4 ways that you can minimize or eliminate the biggest sources of debt in American society, and I hope you learned something from it. These are all based on experience, and these are the things that I live by, and it's really, really helped me. So I hope it helps you. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.